Hello and welcome to the show. I am here on Forza 6 with another silly car build. Today it is the tiny Lotus Elan, likely to have one of the most impressive power to weight ratios. Likely to be also terrifying when it comes to the corners. I'm not really sure quite how this car is going to manage when it has stupendous amounts of power. I suspect it's going to be difficult to drive because it is going to get a lot of power. The engines that you can put in, you can put the i4, you can also put the 3.7 litre V6. I was kind of expecting the V8 Racing engine, quite surprised that isn't one that goes in the Ilan. However, the V6 is mighty powerful. It is slightly heavier than the standard engine and heavier than the V8 Racing engine would be, but it's the best option that we have, and it is the option that we are going to be going for. We shall also go for the twin turbos. You may notice I have bits already bought for this engine. This is a car I used for the low power speed runs. It's one of the vehicles I built up in a test for that. So yeah, that's why some bits might be purchased. Aero parts we're going to be wanting because this is all going to be about trying to get control in this vehicle. The speed and the acceleration is going to be there, no doubt, when you have this much power in such a light vehicle. But it's all going to be about, can I actually control it? Tyres, of course, race tyres, tyre widths are going to be part of the problem. 225s on the front, I suspect. Not much bigger on the rears. Considering we had 335s all round in the NASCAR, you kind of get the idea while we may struggle a little bit with grip in this 245s on the rear. They are not particularly big, and it's going to have almost 900 horsepower going through those rear wheels. Yeah, problems. Problems, I suspect. Also, of course, it has got a very tiny wheelbase, and while good for agility, can be bad for stability and such light weight. The bumps may cause some big problems. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I think it may not be as bad as some cars we've seen across the bumps. It's likely to be quite poor, though. Things like the D-Type were, going to be significantly heavier than this, and that had some scary issues. So, yeah. Right, we are going through, apparently upsetting the game as we are going through here, with the handling bits. A roll cage will add in some weight, and of course we're most definitely wanting that chassis rigidity. How much weight can we take out of the car? £200, down to £1,712. Now it is just on to the engine. Now, of course, there are ways to make this car even lighter. As the standard engine is lighter, you never get the same power. I don't quite know how light you can get in a Elan, but I would imagine it would be very light. And things like turbos and the intercooler will add overall weight, but it will have a fair amount more power, hence why we're going to have them on the car. The exhaust will probably drop the weight down to, it's into the 1,600s, probably about 1,750 by the time we're done with turbos, etc. on here. The power, we're up to 616 horsepower so far. How much is the PI? The PI is still jumping up. I was waiting for it to get to the point where you add huge amounts of power on the car and the PI doesn't move, because that tends to signify that the car is going to be horrendously difficult to drive. And this is adding PI up. Considering that's 34 PI and it's 34 horsepower, and it's only adding 8 PI up, it is not the largest of changes what we are seeing in the PI. Kind of to be expected, really, with the car up to almost 700 horsepower. This should give us a fair whack of power. 828 horsepower from the twin turboed V6 in here, and we're going to get up to 865 now, with a little bit of weight increase. Oil and cooling will be the final bit to put it at 875 horsepower. In such a light car, that is an incredible power to weight ratio. I was about right with the weight, 1,757 pounds. With that much power. The torque, not the highest torque figure we've seen, but still, that is a lot in a little car. I'm quite terrified of this Lotus, but if it is drivable, likely to be very fast. So, to find out just how terrifyingly fast the Lotus Elan might be, we have come to the Virginia International Raceway, where it'll have 5 laps around the Patriot alternate layout in an attempt to go faster than the Toyota Camry NASCAR, our current leader, with a time of 107.0. I don't think this is going to be getting anywhere near the NASCAR, to be honest. The PI is well down. It's a whole class below the NASCAR, and that Toyota was actually quite composed and quite good around here. This, I suspect, will be quite leery. I actually got it off the line better than I thought we were going to. We're probably going to have issues coming up. Oh, God, yeah, we're going to have issues coming up the hill. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Please slow down, please slow down, please slow down. And don't end up in the tyre bundles or, well, barriers. Okay, we got quite a wiggle going on up the hill. As I said about the kind of the bumpy... Oh, it's not massive bumps, but it's just enough to upset some of the really light cars. As I feared, we might have problems with the Ilan, and sure enough, the back end is just wanting to let go on that opening run, and then it's wanting to let go everywhere else. The Camry was so lovely and composed and relatively easy to drive in comparison to the Ilan that isn't. The Ilan is very much not house-trained. It's just... Oh, God. It's just having accidents, or very near accidents, everywhere on the track. First gear is a no-no. It's a crazy. I quite like it for its craziness, and I've got to say, it could be snappier. I was kind of expecting snappier as well. It is, once it does start letting go, it's relatively easy to catch it in time. You're still going to lose heaps of time, that's the word I was going for, with the car going sideways, but it is a lot less twitchy than it potentially could be. The likes of the Maserati Birdcage spring to mind with similar kind of power to weight ratios that are very snappy. Come on, Lotus, how do we do straight line speed wise? 170 miles an hour is good. It's about what we've been seeing as the lower end of straight line speed. Down there, the issue being is that we simply don't have the traction to put the power down early on in the straight. Front end is getting turned in nicely around these corners, mind. It's the rear end that we've really got to... Nope. Really got to watch out for. You should constantly... Oh, that puddle's not going to be a good place either to put the car. It really does just want to let go absolutely everywhere. But it could be worse. And I am quite surprised with this Elan with such incredible amounts of power to weight ratio and such piddly tyres with very sliding. It just wants to corner absolutely sideways everywhere. Oh, I'm trying to avoid the puddle. That was so close to having a wheel on the grass. And I suspect if I put a wheel on the grass in this, it'll not be a fun time for anybody around the final turn. Now, see if we can... Nope. We still can't find any traction. We can now put the power down as we run across the line. Oh, sixth gear maybe. Can we take it flat out up the hill? No, it's still breaking traction. That is the issue we are going to have, is that I just can't be flat out coming up the hill, and that's what we've seen with these little lightweight vehicles. Oh, we're in all sorts of trouble around this first corner. Oh, no, we're running far too deep for the next part as well. Is that, it can't really be flat out up the hill, not in the same way that some of the larger cars can be. They just lose traction across the little bumps. Really got to stop having the car going sideways down here. It's... not going to be conducive for a good lap time. Please slow down for this corner as well. Yeah, I'm impressed with the front end of this car. It does get change direction very well. I mean, it is a tiny, lightweight vehicle, little sports car, so that's perhaps not the most surprising of things, but it does it a lot better than some of the other cars that I thought might fare well. Oh, we're not going to get stopped in time for that last part. I was pushing the car, so... Well, I mean, we've got to figure out what it can do under brakes there at some point. Okay, 2 laps. 2 laps to go for the Ilan. Try and be neat and tidy. Nope, I can't do it. I still just got to wait. Struggling to get to full throttle even there. 5th gear we can, just about, but as we come up the hill, this is where we start spinning the wheels. I think the car's even lifting off the ground slightly coming up there. We do struggle with that traction. I think that is what is killing our acceleration and our straight line speed. Let's focus on being neat through these opening corners and relatively careful with applying the power. I wonder if this car would be one that we might see roll if I was to hit the curb. It's not the highest riding of vehicles, however, it's, you know, the very, very small cars often can have issues with curbs, and, you know, while yes, it's not got the higher centre of mass as an SUV, for what it is, it's actually still relatively high. So if I hit the curbs in the wrong way, there's a small potential, but yeah, to be fair, I have just about got enough handling not to have to worry about running over that curb, and now I'm sort of thinking about it. Probably will be okay. Will we have any? Nah, we're not going up on two wheels there, so I think we might be all right. One more lap. That was a better run for the Ilan. I'm trying some short shifting to see if I can get some more power down at 12.6. I still can't do it. It's 170 miles an hour, but nothing more out of the Lotus. It just loses traction coming up the hill, and then you've got to get onto the brakes, under braking for that first corner. Right, can we find any more time on this last lap? It is a better first sector. Now try and be neat and tidy through here. Yeah, even if we eat the curb there, we're fine. Right, we are. Oh, I'm slightly out. I tend to take a really tight line down there. I'm not sure if that's a good way of doing it. It's just how I want to drive this circuit. Yeah, I'd probably take a wider line in, but never mind. We are through the chicane, improving on this lap time, trying to get that power down without spinning the wheels. It is so difficult, but it's more manageable than I expected. I always knew it was going to be tough. I've got to give the Ilan some credit. It is not quite as horrendously impossible to put the power down as it could be, and it's not horrendously twitchy as some of the other small classic race cars have been. The run towards the line, 1:11.2 from the Lotus. I'm quite surprised. I really thought it was going to be a horribly twitchy, crazy death machine. It's oversteery, very controllable with the oversteer, mind. Of all of the tiny lightweight nonsense that I've driven, by far the most manageable with the sideways stuff, which is not bad going at all for the Ilan. Yeah, acceleration has issues with the bumps. We lose traction at just the wrong point, so you can kind of see the bumps there that cause issues for it, kind of the crests, more crests than bumps, and yeah, we lose traction at the wrong point, and yeah, 170 is all we're going to get. But yeah, it could be a lot worse. I was expecting a lot worse from the Ilan. That time will be enough to put the car into 13th place. It can't quite beat the Jaguar D-Type. It is very, very close, though, between the Ilan and the Jaguar. It does beat the Caterham R500 and the Rolls-Royce Dawn. It is, you know, it's less than a second down on that Maserati. It's only sort of 0.3 of a second down on that Maserati race car that was the initial benchmark. That is pretty good going for a crazily overpowered Lotus Elan. However, now it is time to see just how fast this little machine will go in a straight line. That, of course, means heading to Le Mans. Now, the Lotus does not have anywhere near as much power as some of the cars that have headed down this straight, although it is, you know, relatively streamlined, so we should expect a half-decent straight-line speed. My concerns are probably going to more come from the bumps down the straight. Slightly worried about what this vehicle might do. Also, to put into a context, the NASCAR that went last time, so at default with this aero, it was about, was it like 200, or not even that, sort of 75 on the front, I think it was about 150, 200 on the rear. The NASCAR was like 400. That's the level of downforce that the NASCAR has, and that's why it could deal with the the wet circuit as well as it did. It really did not handle too badly at all. This, you know, has got nowhere near that sort of downforce. And while yes, I've removed all of it for this speed run, you get the idea. Even with all the aero removed on the NASCAR, it's still got so much. And that was, when I'm talking about 400, that was like with the aero removed. Or yeah, it's got so much more downforce than some of these other vehicles. Hence why it could do what it did. This car, 233 miles an hour. That's perhaps about right, what I would expect from the vehicle. My bigger concern is what on earth it is going to do. Partly down the straight, we've seen a Lotus 11 do a wheelie going down the straights here with, oh god, bumps, horrible. We're going to go escaping off at that corner. I'm expecting it to have a little bit more grip through there. Down the straight, you know, the bumps are... you're going to be hitting them at high speed and can be a little bit nasty. The bigger concern is the kink at the end of the straight. There is a fairly sizable bump on the inside, and that, well, that's launched many a car up into the air. This is about as small and as light as they come, so we may well see a flying Lotus probably ending up in a wall. It might be. I have had a few cars surprise me and make it around the corner. It might be okay. I get a strong suspicion it probably won't be. Well, these bumps around here are vicious for normal cars, let alone in the Ilan, but we are around it all, no problem. We're up to 190 miles an hour as we leave the corner. Pretty good acceleration getting up to that speed so early in the run, and we're well past the 220 mile an hour mark, and the car is indeed still pulling. I might just go and quickly just give us a little bit more gear ratio. I don't want to end up running out of them. What will that do for us? 238. I think 238 might be the aero limit, but it is going to be, yeah, the car I think is going to be quite close to the, well, it was going to be quite close to the rev limiter. This should be a little bit better for the vehicle, up to 229 miles an hour. Yeah, it gets up to this speed very quickly, but then it struggles to go any faster. 231 for the Lotus, 232. Come on, get that 233. As we're coming up towards the Lotus flying zone. Oh, we've lost control of it on the way in. Oh, that was a big bump. That was a big bump. Oh, we're gone. Tried to catch it. Didn't in time. Whoa. We nearly dug in and rolled. That was a big shunt. Probably one of the bigger crashes I've actually had down there. Almost saved it initially. I was kind of countersteered a bit too much. It flicked back the other way, as is the danger you run with simulation steering with some of these peculiar cars. Not quite maintained at 232 miles an hour. Not bad going. Wasn't quite the largest of flight times either that we have seen. Pretty impressive nevertheless, though. Pretty impressive flight time, as we were kind of expecting from the car. It's pretty crazy to drive. Not quite as crazy as it could have been, though, I've got to say. Could have been a lot worse. Anyway, its speed, that 232 miles an hour, will put the car into 21st on our table of speed runs. It goes a mile an hour faster than the Dodge Challenger Hellcat, but it is a mile an hour down on the Hot Wheels Mustang. It's beaten by the Lancia Stratos, the Charger Hellcat, and the Honda S2000. It does beat, though, the Skyline, the 205, Porsche 944. So, yeah, it's kind of about average on the speed runs. Kind of, it's not very often you say 230 miles an hour is about average, but in this series it is. It's kind of what you would expect from a car like this around the circuit. I was pleasantly surprised. Very, very tough to drive and very tail happy, but a lot more controllable with it than it could have been. However, that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.